transportation services. So in case of goods transportation services, let's read this provision once again. Goods transportation agency is the supplier, but in some special cases there which says they are not opting to pay GST at 6% under FCM. Since we are discussing CGST Act, CGST at 6% means GST at 12%. They are providing goods transportation services. To whom they are providing it? To a specified person. For the time being, we are calling it a specified person. If you want a general understanding of specified person, we can say that other than unregistered entities, other than unregistered business entities. So, which means that other than unregistered individual and HUF. Let's keep it like that for the time being. So, they are providing services to a specified person. Who's a specified person? Other than unregistered individual and HUF, which means that every registered person comes into that. And there are certain people who will otherwise also comes into that. Now, when you're reading about goods transportation agency, you have few notes that you will have to read it together with. Let's go ahead and start reading each of the notes. Note number 1. This is an understanding on recipient. This is an understanding on recipient. Who is a recipient? There's a definition of recipient in section 2, subsection 93, which we have put it into a chart structure here, which we can easily understand. Who's a recipient? You have to ask the question whether consideration is payable for that particular supply. So whether that supply has consideration or not. If the answer is yes, the recipient is the person who is liable to pay the consideration. This is the method we have been using it for a very long time. We said, how do you identify supplier? The one who's receiving the money. How do I identify the recipient? The one who's paying the money. Okay, so recipient generally is a person who is liable to pay consideration if consideration is there. Now, if consideration is not there, why am I identifying who's the recipient? Whether it can be a supplier? Yes, we have learned it somewhere. C is missing. C is missing. So section 7, subsection 1, clause C. C is missing. Consideration is missing. Schedule 1 item. There, how do you identify who's a recipient? Because there is no consideration. They said if it's supply of goods, because there is no consideration, there is no person who is liable to pay it. In such cases, if it is supply of goods, then it will be the recipient will be the person to whom goods are delivered. If the supply is supply of service, recipient is the person to whom service is rendered. To whom the goods are delivered in case of goods, to whom service is rendered in case of service when consideration is not there. This is the definition. Now, what is the use of this particular definition? You will have to have patience. When we are progressing on this particular discussion, you will have full understanding on that. Then, in case of GTA services, the person paying consideration, that is freight, is the recipient. I'm even giving clarity there also. Then who is a GTA? So from here onwards, when you're learning GST, GTA is never, your Grand Theft Auto game. Okay, that GTA Vice City San Andreas is gone. Now we are at GTA, wherein we have to call GTA as Goods Transportation Agency. Okay. Now we have to define who is a GTA. So how do you identify a person to be a goods transportation agency or just a transporter? There's a slight difference between these two. To give you a perception on that, there could be a person who's actually collecting goods from someone and delivering to you. Or, say for example, you're going to an electronic shop, okay, like Chroma or Reliance Digital. Option number 1, they will say that we will deliver it for you. Option number 2, they can appoint a third party to deliver it to you. So who will become a goods transportation agency here? Now they have used the word. There are few words which are very important, but our understanding is going to be, reading is going to be very simple. Now we're just reading random, sentences. At some point we will connect all the dots and you will have full clarity. In the end, we will create a summary structure so that you can understand it fully. A person who provides services in relation to transportation of goods by road. They have used the word a person who provides services in relation to, which means that it need not to be completely transportation. It can even be handling, loading, everything. Are you guys with me? They can provide that incidental activity also. Because they have used the word, they provide services in relation to transportation of goods by road. And very, very, very important point that they issue a consignment note. So this GTA issues consignment note. So we will ask the question of a transporter to qualify him as a GTA. He should be issuing a document called as consignment note. Then, apart from the details of tax invoice, it will contain an additional document. So consignment note will have an additional details apart from your tax invoice. You will have some additional details like this, and each of it has some relevance or the other there. First one, name of the consigner and consignee, to whom, from whom I have collected it, to whom I am delivering it. Okay, so who's the consigner, who's the consignee? GSTIN of the person liable to pay GST, which means that they're not saying GSTIN of consigner, they're not saying GSTIN of consignee. It could be anyone. That's the understanding, right? That's why they're saying that GST of the person liable to pay GST. So GSTIN of the person who is liable to pay GST means it can be any one of them. How do I decide on that? We have a mechanism. Then registration number of the goods carriage vehicle. So they need to have goods carriage vehicle registration number. Then details of goods transported and gross weight. Details of goods transported and gross weight. They are asking you to mention the goods details on the consignment note itself. Why that could be? So are they giving some kind of exemption with regard to specific goods? So if at all they are giving some exemption to certain goods for transportation, whether they should be able to identify what goods they are transporting? Yes. For identifying that goods, whether that goods name should be there on the consignment note? Yes. So there's some reason they're putting the details of goods also inside that. Now, place of origin, place of destination. These are the additional details apart from the details we will regularly have on a tax invoice, which we'll discuss at the right moment. Then, so what are the information that we have learned? We've learned who's the recipient, and we have also discussed what is consideration in case of GTA. Then we discussed who's the GTA, what is the special document he issues, and what are the additional contents apart from tax invoices content we will have in the consignment note. Now, apart from GTA services, GTA would provide ancillary services together with it, like loading, unloading, packing, etc. They can also provide ancillary services, which means that their main service would be what? Their main services would be transportation. Apart from transportation, they can also provide services like loading, unloading, packing, etc. And if it is invoiced together, then it will be considered to be a composite supply. So which means that if somebody agrees to transport something from one place to another, it is well understood that they'll come, package it, they'll take it out, and they will do the loading, unloading. These are all combined together they're providing, and it is naturally bundled. Where did we hear this word naturally bundled before? Composite supply. So it will be considered to be a composite supply of goods and composite supply of service and service, not goods. It's a service and service. If that's the case, then which will be the principal supply? It will be transportation service. So they're saying that if the GTA provides you loading, unloading, packing together with your road transportation, it'll all be considered to be one bill, and you have to apply the rate of goods transportation on the entire bill value because it's a composite supply. Then fifth one, we have used the word specified person here. We said if goods transportation agency provides services to a specified person, reverse charge will be applicable. So we are discussing all this under reverse charge. Okay, so in that particular charge chapter only our discussion started, right? So we are telling them that goods transportation agency, if they provide services to only to a specified person, reverse charge will be applicable. Now I told you in very basic understanding, specified person means other than unregistered individual or HUF. Now I'm going to give you in detail who's the specified person. I've listed a set of specified person. Specified person has 6 branches. They said first one is a factory under Factories Act 1948. So any factories registered under Factories Act 1948, irrespective whether they are registered under GST or not, will become a specified person. So they will come under reverse charge. Second, The recipient is a society under Societies Registration Act 1860 or any other act also comes under this particular category of specified person. Cooperative society under any law, they also come under specified person. Body corporate comes under specified person. Partnership firm, including LLP or association of person, also comes under specified person. This is irrespective of their GST registration. What is the meaning irrespective of their GST registration? The moment they receive services from GTA, they will be liable to pay tax under RCM. They will have to mandatorily take registration under which section? Section 24 comes in. Are you guys with me? Okay. Then, last one, any other person registered under GST means all registered persons comes under specified person. So, if anybody who was registered under GST receives services from a GTA was not opted for payment of taxes at 12%, then reverse charge will be applicable. Is the summary of it, including casual taxable persons. So, a specific registration called as casual taxable person, which we are going to discuss under registration chapter. But if they are registered under that category also and they receive services from GTA, reverse charge will be applicable. But then when I say registered person, I don't mean those government entities, government department, government agencies, they have registered only for payment of tax deducted at source under GST. These people are not included. So when I say any registered person, I do not intend to include person registered only for TDS payment. They have specifically excluded it there. Okay, so once again, who are these specified person? Let's look at it. Factories under Factories Act 1948, societies under Societies Registration Act 1860 or any other act, cooperative society under any law, body corporate, partnership or LLP, partnership firm including LLP and AOP, any person registered under GST including casual taxable person, but excludes person registered only for the purpose of TDS. Now we have learned so many information, so many notes, overall view, except for exemption. I've discussed all of it. Now we will have to come back and then try to understand what is this transaction all about? What is this GTA? Who are the people who will come under this? And what is really under reverse charge mechanism? Let's look at it. I'm going to give you an example here. For this notes alone, I have even put out the examples for you so that you understand it together with the example. It's very important to understand it that way. So we will have to first define the characters. We do have a person called as Tinosh, who's from Kochi, who's a recipient of this particular goods. So which means Tinosh has ordered some goods from Reliance Limited, who's having an office in Bangalore. So the consignment comes from Reliance Limited in Bangalore, and the consignment reaches to Kochi, whose the recipient would be Tinosh in our case. Now, when I say recipient, I don't mean recipient under GST. We will rather term him as receiver of goods. Okay, so Reliance wants to send some goods. So sender of goods is Reliance, which is in Bangalore, and recipient of goods is Tinosh, who is in Kochi. Two options Reliance has. They can arrange this particular transfer of goods in their own vehicle. They can put out to Tinosh, who is in Kochi. So somebody from Reliance itself comes in their lorry, delivers the product to Tinosh, and then goes back in their lorry. Question to you, whether that would amount to goods transportation agency service? The answer is no, because there is no separate consigner and consignee. Reliance itself is delivering that particular product. Thereby, Tinosh does not have a separate contract for delivery with Reliance. They're just delivering their own product. So there is no consignment note that will be separately issued here. Are you guys understanding? But when goods transportation agency services would come, Reliance does not have this delivery mechanism. Reliance calls up Mr. Suhail, who's from Bangalore as well. Now Suhail said, yes, Suhail speaking. Now Reliance said, we would like to have our product delivered to one of our client, who's Tinosh, who's located in Kochi. Now Suhail said, of course, that's our job. We will do that. Now Suhail immediately sent his delivery van, wherein he himself is the driver, and goes there, stops, and Reliance Limited put their goods into the GTA van of Suhail. Now the van comes to Tino, who is in Kochi. Are you guys with me? Now carefully analyze this particular transaction. Question to you would be this, which you will have to type out on the comment chats. Who will be the recipient in this particular case? Again, I'll repeat the question. Suhail is the supplier that we are settling out, because what is the activity we are talking here? We're talking about an activity called as goods transportation. Who provides goods transportation service? Goods transportation agency. So what is the document that they'll issue? What is the document that they'll issue? They'll issue a document called as consignment note. Now additional point of understanding is that supplier is Suhail and we require a recipient. And who will be the recipient in this particular case? Whether it will be Tinosh or it will be Reliance Limited of Bangalore. You have three options possible. Option A, it is Tinosh. Option B, it is Reliance Limited Bangalore. Option C, you cannot decide unless I give you an additional information. Of course, when I say that, you wanted to choose the third option. Okay. So you want an additional information. Now, what should be the additional information you are seeking? How do you decide who's a recipient? You cannot say both of them are recipients, because in GST, I will have to fix a recipient, because only recipient is liable to pay taxes under reverse charge. I cannot have more than one recipient for the same. Okay, so in this particular case, okay. Now, if in this particular case, I will have to ask the question, or how do you decide who's a recipient? It's a very simple mechanism. We had a definition to decide who's a recipient. How do you decide who's a recipient? You have to ask the question, who is liable to pay consideration? If consideration is there. Consideration is not there, then to whom goods are delivered, if it is supply of goods, to whom service is rendered, if it is supply of service. We're talking about what here? Supply of service. What service? Goods transportation service. Now here, whether consideration is there, yes. Who pays the consideration? It is not necessary that the consideration has to be always paid by the sender of goods. It can at times be paid by recipient of goods. See, you know that in Amazon it happens like that, wherein if the value of your order exceeds a specific amount, you will have to bear the transportation cost. If the value is less, if the value is less than a specific amount, you will have to bear the transportation cost. And if the value is more than a specific amount, then it will be paid by Amazon itself. So it can be just practically possible that sometimes it can be the sender of goods who pays the consideration, or it can be recipient of goods who pays the consideration. Now we are going to discuss about each case and decide whether reverse charge mechanism will be applicable or not applicable. Are you guys with me? Okay. First, case 1. What is that the case 1 says? Who pays the freight in case 1? So your question to this was, who pays the consideration? And you understood that the consideration is paid by Reliance Limited in case 1. So Reliance Limited pays the consideration means who's the recipient? Reliance Limited would be the recipient. Now we will have to understand, to decide whether reverse charge mechanism is applicable or not, who should be the supplier? It should be a goods transportation agency who's the supplier. And who should be the recipient? The recipient should be a specified person. Which are the specified person we have? Factories, cooperative societies, body corporate, partnership firm, LLP, AOP, and any person registered under GST, including casual taxable person, other than person registered only for payment of TDS. Which means whether a body corporate would come under as a specified person, answer is yes. Guys, clear on this? Or we can simply put in who will not be a specified person. We can actually have a negative understanding on this. To decide who's a specified person, everybody who's registered would come under this. So any person like individual and HUF who's not registered will not be a specified person. Other than all of them will be a specified person. It's an easier understanding. So in this particular case, who's the recipient? So what is the order in which we are trying to decipher the events? First, we are asking the question, who's the supplier? Who's the supplier? GTA. What is the service goods transportation? How did you understand is the GTA? Consignment note was issued. Then you're asking the question, who's the recipient? Then I'm asking you the question, how do you identify the recipient? You have to ask the question, who pays the consideration? What's the consideration in case of goods transportation? It is the freight that is being paid. So who pays the freight? They said Reliance pays the freight. So Reliance is the recipient. The next question, is this recipient a specified person? Then they are asking the question, how do you identify a specified person? There's a list of 6 people who can be a specified person. Or we can say that other than this unregistered individual HUF etc., all others are specified person. This fellow is a company, so automatically a specified person. So what charge is applicable here? Reverse charge mechanism is applicable here. Since reverse charge mechanism is applicable, GST has to be paid by the recipient. And only in this case, I'm going to give you rate also. So GST has to be paid by recipient under reverse charge mechanism at what percent? 5%. What was the value of this particular supply? It was 1 lakh. So Reliance has to pay only 1 lakh to Suhail, which is a GTA, and Reliance has to pay GST directly to the government at 5%. So what will be the GST? 1 lakh into 5%, which is 5,000 rupees. So Reliance pays 1 lakh rupees to Suhail, 5,000 directly to the government. Are you guys understanding this particular segment? Are you guys understanding? Is it clear? Super clear? Till now? Can I have few yes on the chat box? Next. Okay. Second case is case 2. Let's discuss case 2. Case 2 says it is not Reliance which is paying the consideration. Freight is in case 2 is paid by Tinosh who is in Kochi. So if Tinosh is the one who's paying this particular consideration, how the entire scenario would change is the question. Now, if Tinosh is the one who is paying the consideration, which we established by saying that yes, it can even be Tinosh. So, if Tinosh is the one who's paying the consideration, we understood the one who's paying the consideration would be the recipient. So, who will become the recipient here? It will become Tinosh. Now, let's start the entire process again. Who's the supplier? Suhail, which is the GTA. What is the service? Goods transportation. How did you understand? Consignment note was there. Who's the recipient? What is the question? Who pays the consideration? Tinosh. Okay, Tinosh is the recipient then. Now then we will have to ask the question to apply reverse charge mechanism, whether that fellow is a specified person. Now Tinosh is an individual and let us assume he's an unregistered individual. Is he a specified person? No. In that 6 specified person, unregistered individual does not fall under. Are you guys with me? Thereby, he is not a specified person. Thereby, what is not applicable, reverse charge mechanism is not applicable. Then if government wants to collect GST, what's the possible mechanism available? The possible mechanism available is forward charge mechanism. But what the government has decided, government said, no, I don't want forward charge mechanism to be implemented when the recipient under goods transportation service is an individual. So government decided to give exemption to that. They said if the recipient is an individual, goods transportation in India from a GTA is exempted from GST. Thereby, if the recipient is Tinosh, then GST itself is exempted. Able to understand this? So that's entirely exempted if it is Tinosh who's paying the right. So you will have to now understand that if GTA provides services to Tinosh, who is an unregistered individual, Tinosh has to pay 1 lakh to GTA. And whether GTA has to pay under forward charge? No, there is no GST at all applicable to that. Because I have already told you charge taxability. First, there should be taxability, then only I can determine the charge. If it is exempted, there is no taxability, then there is no point of discussing charge. Are you guys understanding this? Is it clear? Now, the first structure of transaction, is it clear? Super clear? Can I have you yes on the chat box? Or do you want me to repeat this particular transaction? Okay, now let us go to example number 2. This is only to create curiosity in you, to give you little more understanding on this particular transaction. Now, which part of the transaction is not available? I'm not talking about the moment where Tinosh is the one who's actually receiving the services from GTA. Okay, so this time we are saying that okay, it is Reliance which is actually paying that particular consideration. So in the first example, Reliance has given only 1 lakh worth services to Suhail, which is running a GTA. Now, after GTA is being super happy with, Reliance is being super happy with Suhail service, Reliance decided, okay, we will give them the entire South India license. So, what do you mean by that? Now, Suhail is the one who's going to manage the entire South India transportation for Reliance Limited. So, Suhail is super happy. But let us see how GST implication would come. They appointed you as the GST consultant. How do you identify the transaction? So all services are provided to Reliance, which means who's paying the freight? Reliance is paying the freight. So the freight that comes around is for 1 crore. Okay. So on this particular 1 crore, whether Reliance will pay 1 crore plus GST to Suhail or just 1 crore, then we will have to understand supplier GTA, recipient Reliance, which is a specified person. Thereby, reverse charge mechanism is applicable. Who has to pay GST to the government? It is Reliance who pays GST to the government. How much will be the amount? 1 crore into 5%, which will be 5 lakh rupees. This particular part of the transaction, are you guys clear on that? Which means when reverse charge will be applicable in case of GTA transaction. Now let us go ahead and add something else to this particular transaction. You will have to carefully listen to this. Getting a contract from Reliance is not a small thing. Suhail is very happy. He wanted to ensure his service is delivered with utmost quality. So Suhail decided he will go for truck shopping. He will go find out whether he can acquire new trucks so that his delivery would be smooth. So Suhail decided, okay, he will go to Bharat Benz so that he can purchase a new truck. So he went to Bharat Benz and he found out there is a new truck that is available. I'll say, for example, it's at a very deep discount. It is available at 20 lakhs. Now, who's the supplier there? Bharat Benz. They are making supply to Suhail. So for Suhail, as far as Suhail is concerned, for him it is what supply? It is an inward supply. You guys with me? Now Bharat Benz is selling product for 20 lakhs. They will also sell it together with GST. How much was the GST? 18% GST, which is 3.6 lakhs. Now you will have to think from the perspective of Suhail. So as far as Suhail is concerned, Suhail has an outward supply, which is outward supplies goods transportation service. Suhail has taken an inward supply, which is inward supply is what? Purchase of a capital goods called as truck. Now, question to you is this: can Suhail? I want you to answer on the comment box. Can Suhail take the credit of this 3.6 lakhs when they are providing outward supply of goods transportation service, whether they can take the credit? So how much will be the credit available? 3.6 lakhs. Whether this will be available as credit for, how much was the tax paid? 3.6 lakh. Whether this will be available as input tax credit for Suhail? The answer is no. Why it is not available as input tax credit? Why is Suhail not getting input tax credit? Now the reason is, for generally for the government's understanding is that for me to give an input tax credit, I should be having tax payable on my outward supply. So in this particular case, GTA does not have tax payable on outward supply, because when GTA provides services to, GTA means Suhail is providing services to Reliance. When Suhail is providing services to Reliance, you can see that in such cases, it is Reliance which is paying taxes to the government. So what happens is, when since it is Reliance, Suhail, as far as Suhail is concerned, outward supply tax payable is zero. He has input tax credit. Whether they'll be allowed to set it off, carry forward the credit. No, because government has decided, okay, since the tax is collected from recipient, let me collect at a smaller rate. That's why that from Reliance it was collected at 5%. So government says, if your outward supply is under reverse charge mechanism, which means you're not paying taxes to the government, your customer is paying taxes to the government, then corresponding purchases, you won't get any ITC. This is an additional information for you. That is why we are denying ITC for Suhail. So when you deny ITC, what will be the impact? When you deny ITC, that this particular amount of 3.6 lakhs will become cost for the GTA, which GTA is going to really cry, because GTA says, see, this is quietly unfair. I did not ask for reverse charge. I would have otherwise collected from Reliance. What was the big deal? Now, because I'm not able to collect it from Reliance and then pay to you government, you're not giving me credit, which effectively means now the purchase cost of new truck is 23.6 lakhs for me. Otherwise, it would have been 20 lakhs. Because this amount that I will collect from Reliance, I will be able to keep it if I have the credit. Are you guys understanding? If I had the credit, I'll collect the taxes from Reliance, I'll keep the credit amount, and balance only I'll pay. So I'm getting back this money. Are you guys with me? So all this particular GTA will have a problem with this kind of a provision. The government had really thought about it. And government said, don't worry GTA, because I'm giving you an option. What is that option? Specifically here, GTA can by intimation. GTA can by intimation opt for what charge? Opt for forward charge mechanism. They can actually go for forward charge mechanism. Now, if they opt for forward charge mechanism, how the same transaction which is provided to Reliance would be revised. So if the GTA was not the exact GTA which was under reverse charge, they had opted by intimation under forward charge. They had told the government, see, I wanted to go for forward charge only. They had opted for forward charge. First information, their GST rate increases to 12%. So this transaction will be taxed at 12% instead of 5%. So the same transaction now we will have to analyze. They said, okay, it is Suhail which is providing goods transportation services, and it is provided to Reliance Limited. Now here GTA has opted for forward charge, which means that Reliance is not the one who has to pay taxes directly to the government. It will be paid by Reliance ultimately, because ultimate burden of taxes is on the recipient only. But Reliance Limited will be the one which is ultimately taking the taxes, but it will be paid to whom? It will be paid to GTA, and GTA has to pay to the government. So now they will have to pay freight of 1 crore plus GST at 12%, which means that they will pay in total 1 crore 12 lakhs to Suhail here. And Suhail is providing goods transportation service. But what is the benefit that Suhail has if they opt for forward charge mechanism? Now all the provisions, now the government will be happily catching whom? Is it Reliance or it is GTA in this particular case? Government will start catching GTA. Are you guys clear? Super clear? Okay. Now, in this particular case, the same Suhail has gone and purchased a new truck. He has paid how much amount? 23.6 lakhs. 20 lakhs in case of 20 lakhs in case of value, 3 lakhs in case of GST. Now, can he take the credit of GST here? The answer is yes. Now, how do we calculate the net GST payable by Suhail in this particular case? His outward supply is taxed at 12 lakhs. So tax collected is 12 lakhs. His ITC is 3.6 lakhs. So he will have to net pay only 8.4 lakhs, wherein he received 12 lakhs from Reliance, which means that now his cost of purchase of truck would be only 20 lakhs. Are you guys understanding this particular transaction in detail now? So now you tell me whether in this particular transaction, whether the recipient is a specified person, whether the recipient is a specified person, whether Reliance Limited is a specified person. Yes. So can I outrightly confirm whenever it is a specified person who's a recipient and GTA is providing goods transportation services, it will mandatorily come under reverse charge mechanism? Can I confirm it like that? The answer is no, I cannot confirm it like that. Why can't I confirm it like that? Because sometimes it is not going to be the specified person, it is GTA itself who's opting for forward charge, who has to pay GST in that cases. So when reverse charge will be applicable? Reverse charge will be applicable when a GTA who's not opting to pay tax under forward charge is providing goods transportation services to a specified person. So not merely specified person, the supplier, which is the GTA, should not opt for forward charge. In such cases, only reverse charge will be applicable. So if you go back to our notes and check out the entry in reverse charge, we have specifically written the provision to be when reverse charge is applicable. Go ahead and read this. Goods transportation agency not opting to pay CGST at 6% under forward charge mechanism, they provide goods transportation services to a specified person. That is when reverse charge will be applicable. Are you guys clear? Are you guys clear? How is it? Is the GST discussion on GTA over here? It is not over. There are some other areas also having this particular discussion. What is it? Even though GST is applicable in so many cases, there are few exemptions that are available if the services is provided by GTA. I'm telling you that there are exemption. Apart from the exemption, I have already told you. What is the exemption? I have already told you. And which notification talks about exemption? Like I told you that when you have a question on reverse charge mechanism, what's the notification number that you have to remember? Notification 13 bar 2017. Similarly, whenever you have an exemption question, you have to remember this notification 12 bar 2017. I've already used it in a previous exemption discussion. Now again I'm using, you will have to mentally note this. And there are, I told you that I don't want you to remember the entire notification numbers, but there are few notification number. I strongly suggest all of you to remember and write it in the examination as a notification number itself. One of them would be notification 12 bar 2017. So as per notification 12 bar 2017, following additional exemptions are available to services provided by goods transportation agency. Can we look at what are the exemption that is available? First exemption is something that we've already discussed. What is that? GTA services provided to a person other than specified person. We've already said if it is a person other than specified person, who on earth is this person other than specified person? Everybody comes in there, no, other than registered. And it is not the first 5%, which means it is not factory, it is not cooperative society or society, it's not body corporate, it's not partnership firm or AOP or LLP. Anybody other than that who's not even registered, an unregistered individual, if he becomes to be the recipient, when he will become recipient, he is the one who's paying the consideration. We've already seen Tinoge was paying the consideration. At that time, it is exempted. Irrespective of whatever he transport, how much ever is the value, it is exempted. What is exempted? GST on transportation charge, which is freight, that is exempted. You guys with me? Don't think that it's freely transported, okay? We're talking about GST is exempted on that, which means that he will have to just pay transportation charges. He need not apply any reverse charge. Now I'm telling you that even if they are coming under specified person, you still have few more exemption. Specified person, we have seen there are two cases. One is this particular GTA can either offer forward charge or reverse charge. Now, opting is only for forward charge. Otherwise, reverse charge will be applicable if the recipient is specified person. Now, I'm saying in those cases also there are exemptions. The recipient is specified person, still there are exemptions available. Other than specified person, always exempted. Now, let's see. What is the first one? GTA services provided to. Now, this is the case of TDS. You read it once. We are going to read the entire provision once. Then we are going to have full set of discussion. GTA services provided to department or establishment of central government or state government, local authority or governmental agencies registered only for paying TDS under section 51, not making any taxable supply. Next, a small consignment or a small consignee. What is a small consignment? Freight for goods transported in a single goods carriage, which is less than or equal to 1,500. A small consignee is freight charges for a single consignee, which is less than or equal to 750. Now, transportation of following goods in GTA is exempted, which means, you remember I told you that in consignment note there is a detail that is to be mentioned called as details of goods. I told you there are 5 additional details will be mentioned apart from your regular tax invoice information. We discussed that, no? We said there is to be mentioned consignor, consignee, GST number of the one who is actually paying the taxes. Okay. And what is the details of the goods, the place of origin, what is the weight of that particular goods, the place of destination. All these information has to be mentioned in there, isn't it? The goods carriage vehicle number. So all these are the additional details that we have to mention. In that, the details of the goods are mentioned because in certain goods, if you identify from the consignment note, you can actually get exemption. What is that? Agriculture produce, milk, salt, food grain, including flour, pulse, and rice. Defense and military equipments, relief materials, newspapers and magazines, organic manure. These are the goods you get exemption. Now let's come back again and look at it in total. What is this exemption all about? Let's look at the second one first. This is the exemption that we're going to discuss now. GTA services provided to department or establishment of central government, state government, local authority or governmental agency registered only for paying TDS under section 51, not making any taxable supply. The meaning of this is very, very logical. In GST, there is provision called as tax deducted at source. What is tax deducted at source? Of course, I'm going to discuss in payment chapter in detail on that. But for the time being, you understand, government wanted certain government agencies and government departments to deduct taxes when they are making payment to their contractors. So there is so much of information available, and I don't have a chart to look at. We can visualize the chart always. Supplier is a contractor. A recipient is government. What recipient is doing in case of reverse charge mechanism? Pay full taxes to the government. Now, is that the case in case of TDS? No. In case of TDS, like income tax TDS, if you can relate, it will be very easy for you to understand. In case of TDS under GST, which I'm going to discuss in detail with all the charts. In case of TDS sections in GST, the liability to pay taxes remains with the supplier. What is that the recipient has to do? They have to deduct some taxes, not the entire taxes. Okay, some taxes. If the entire taxes is 1 lakh, they're deducting only a certain percentage, and this percentage has to, not the entire 1 lakh has to be paid. That is reverse charge. I'm not talking about reverse charge. They're reducing something from the TDS, and they're providing the information of the supplier also to government. So they said, see, there are a lot of cases where I want to track the supplier in detail, track the supplier and ensure more collection. They said we will ask certain people to do TDS and then deposit that money with us. To deposit the TDS amount, these government and government departments has to take a registration. So question number one, did this government and government department take the registration because they are a taxable, they are making taxable supply? The answer is no, not making taxable supply. They have taken registration because they wanted to make a payment called as TDS. Now they have taken registration. Now you have to go back to specified person definition. In specified person definition, the last branch of specified person definition says what? Any person registered under GST will become a specified person for this particular entry in reverse charge. So effectively what happens? Just because government has taken registration for payment of TDS, they have become a specified person, which they noticed. Government noticed this. Oh, this is a problem. So government came up and then gave a clarification, and a notification was given to exclude them from reverse charge mechanism. They said if a GTA provides services to these people, department or establishment of central government, state government, local authority, government agencies registered only for paying TDS under section 51, then I don't want to treat them as specified person and ask them to pay taxes under RCM. So then they ask the question, okay, so you want to exclude them from specified person. Okay, excluded. That is why we have learned there, they're not specified person now. Okay, I'm excluding. So you want the taxes from GTA? No, no, no. I want to give them the same method. We will treat them as other than specified person. But since they are registered, we cannot completely put in there. So we said, okay, we will give a specific exemption. What is the exemption? If government receives, government, which government? Is it the government which is registered under GST? No, no, no. Government which is registered only for paying TDS. They receive services from a GTA, then GST itself is not applicable. So no question of reverse charge. You understanding this provision? Can I have few yes in the comment box? So here government is trying to create proper clarity in the system, and they don't want to collect taxes under RCM from government to GST department. One government department to another government department. To under reverse charge. No, 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 does not look very nice system, right? So they've given clarity. Okay, my fellow, why should I collect it again from them? Then next two exemptions are irrespective of the product that you transport. It is based on the freight value, which means how much is the transportation charges will determine whether the GTA service will get exemption or not. What is the two type of exemption they have? Small consignment and small consigning. In a small consignment, to visualize a small consignment, I want you to visualize a consignment vehicle. Think about a van. You have to think about a van. In a consignment vehicle, suppose in a consignment vehicle, I have consignments of many people. I have consignments of many people in here. Okay, so in this particular consignment vehicle, it is going from one town in Kerala to another town. So entire value of this consignment is 1,400. The entire value is 1,400. Okay, so the entire value is 1,400. So if the entire value of a consignment, which could have multiple people, okay, there are three people, A and B and C, which is sending consignment on a single consignment, and all of them put together, it happened to be 1,400. Wherein A is having 1,200 to be the consignment value, B is having 100, C is having 100. All the three will get exemption because the entire consignment value is in a single goods carriage is less than 1500. So we call this consignment which has a entire consignment transportation charges to be less than 1500 as what is the term that we're going to use? Small consignment. So in a small consignment, everybody get exemption. What is a small consignment? Less than 1500 transportation charges. Then, if it is not a small consignment, when I say it is not a small consignment, means what? The entire value of the consignment. If it's not a small consignment, means entire value of the consignment is more than 1500. So the entire value of the consignment is more than 1500. So if the value is more than 1500, if it's a big consignment, then one party gets the exemption there. With that one party, a small consignee gets exemption there. Okay, let's see what is a small consignee. Okay, small consignee also has a limit on the transaction. To define him as a small consignee, there's a limit on the transaction. Let's see the limit. So the small consignee is a person whose freight charges are less than or equal to 750. So freight charges less than or equal to 750, he becomes a what consignee? Small consignee. So in a very big consignment, which means that in the earlier question that we were discussing, we had a consignment value of 1400. In a consignment which is 1400, A and B and C, everyone who gets inside some amount there, everybody who is having a consignment in that one single goods carriage, it will get exempted. So small consignment exemption is for everyone who comes under less than 1500. Somebody could be 1200, which is more than 750. He also gets exemption because the entire consignment transportation charge is less than 1500. Now a small consignee exemption comes in a big consignment. So the value of consignment happened to be 2500. I have three people inside it, A, B, C. A's consignment values, consignment transportation charges 1000. B's transportation charges 1000. C only 500 because entire value is 2500. Whether the 2500 comes under the first exemption? No. Now, in that particular consignment where 2500 is the value, small consignee Small consignee is someone who's having a single consignee who's having a transportation charge less than 750. He has 500. He gets exemption. Are you guys with me? So in a small consignment, everybody, including somebody who's more than 750, he gets an exemption because it's a small consignment. But in a big consignment, the one who's actually having small consignee, he will get the exemption inside. Are you guys clear on this? Can I have few yes on the comment? Okay. Now, the last exemption that we have, I told you, is based on the product that you're transporting. What is the product that you transport, which will get exemption? First one is agriculture produce. Okay, so if you're transporting any agriculture produce, you get an exemption. Then milk, salt, food grains including flour, pulse and rice. And for your information for the examination, you will have to remember these product names also. They'll ask MCQ question this specific. They will ask you a question based on the product that you're transporting. So you'll have to remember this, all of this product. Agriculture produce. I know few of you are having that doubt. Should I remember all this? Or they're like, okay, some product they're transporting. No, they'll give you the product. They'll give you transportation of biscuits. They'll give you transportation of biscuits 6,000 rupees. Will they get exemption? No, because biscuits is not mentioned here. But transportation of defense equipments, transportation of salt, transportation of rice, transportation of magazines, all of this will get exemption. Agriculture produce milk, salt, food grains including flour, pulse and rice, defense and military equipments, relief materials, newspapers and magazines, organic manure. These are the product that you will get exemption. Say your goods transportation agency does daily newspaper transportation for Hindu, they'll get exemption. The Hindu will not have to pay, even though they are a specified person. Hindu newspaper will not pay any GST on that because newspaper transportation charges on that GST is exempted. Now Kerala floods happen, relief materials are transported from one state to another. No GST on that, it is exempted. Organic manure, your organic fertilizers for the plants and then farming, if you're transporting that, exempted. So which are the products? Once again, you will have to think over and then remember our chart. How many products are there? So once you have numbers in your mind, no, it will be very easy for you to remember. If you know that, okay, 6 products, then your mind slowly will start picking up 6 items for that. Agriculture produce, milk, salt, food grains, including their flour, including the pulses and the rice, defense and military equipments, all your army equipments that is being transported. If you are a GTA who's doing that, secluded, very confidential assignment, exclusive, exempted, no GST on that. Relief material, no GST on that. Newspapers and magazine, no GST on that. Organic manure transportation, no GST on that. You guys clear? Please give me few yes on the chat box, because this can even be asked as a, we do have an exam question which can be asked for 16 marks just from GTA. That's why I'm taking every aspect of it so that it will be completely clear for all of you. Can I go ahead? Now, something that you will have to look at right before the examination day. How do you summarize these? You don't need to learn 1 hour, you know, revision on GTA. It should be like 1 minute revision for you, because you have so many items like GTA that you will have to bring it down. You might have 10 charts initially, bring it down to just one chart in the end. And from this chart, you should be able to think. Looking at this chart, you should be able to think and then expand to each one of it. So the GTA has an option. They can go for forward charge mechanism. If they go for forward charge mechanism, what is the benefit that GTA has? What is the benefit they'll get? They will be able to claim input tax credit on their inward supply. but the rate, GST rate, whether it will be same as 5% or it will get increased to 12%. It will get increased to 12%, but anyway, they'll collect it from the customer. Okay, so GTA, they can buy intimation, they can offer forward charge. Benefit, they can take ITC on their inward supply. What is the rate? 12%. But GST will not be payable, even though forward charge could be something that they have opted. GST will not be payable if they are transporting, like the cases that I've discussed: agriculture produce, defense materials, milk, salt, food grains, including flour, pulses, and rice. All these exemptions are applicable there also. Forward charge or reverse charge, irrespective of. Then they don't opt for forward charge mechanism. That is the next case. They did not make that choice of forward charge mechanism. Now, can I outrightly say reverse charge? No, you will have to think. What is that? What is the demerit they have if they don't offer forward charge mechanism? They will not be able to claim ITC, which means that their customer is directly paying to the government. So whatever purchases they make, no ITC. That is the demerit. Then we will have to ask the question to decide on who will have to pay, who's the recipient. Option number one, they are a specified person. Option number two, they are other than specified person. Who's an other than specified person? An unregistered persons like individual, HUF, etc. Now, GST is exempted there. Okay, so if they have not opted for forward charge, but recipient happen to be a person other than specified person, it is exempted. Then second case, they are a specified person. Recipient is a specified person. How do I check who is a recipient? How do I check? I will have to check based on who pays the freight. Now, the one who's paying the freight, why we have to have that confusion? The sender of goods, receiver of goods, two people. I'll have to choose the recipient there. So who pays the consideration? To whom that contract happened, who pays the consideration? Now, if the consideration paying person is a specified person, how do I check the specified person? We have a 6 list of specified person. If one of them happened to be the recipient, then you will have to ask another question. Is that person, which is government, was registered only for TDS, or is this particular transaction exempted? Why it should be exempted? Option 1, it should be exempted because it is a small consignment. Option number 2, it is exempted because that person is a small consignee, even though they are specified person. Option number 3, they're transporting 6 specified goods: agriculture produce, milk, salt, food grains including flour, pulse, and rice, military or defense equipments. They are transporting newspapers and magazines. They're transporting relief materials. They're transporting organic manure. 6 of them. Then it is exempted. If it is exempted, I already told you. First, you should have taxability. Then only charge will come. If there is no taxability, no charge. Are you guys understanding? And thereby, there is no GST. So when reverse charge will be applicable? When it is not exempted and the recipient is a specified person, reverse charge is applicable. What is the rate that will be applicable? It will be 5%. Are you guys clear on this? Everyone, super clear? If it's clear, it's wonderful.